Hello and welcome to Lunch with Lee. I'm your host Shane Leach. And the show, Nathan Wood, a former New South Wales and Australian Rugby League player, playing 215 first grade matches for Sydney City Roosters, the Balmain Tigers, New Zealand Warriors and Super League in the UK. He's regarded in rugby league circles as the greatest prankster with a fantastic sense of humour. But away from footy, he's the brother of boxer Garth Wood and appeared on Challenger as a gladiator. Welcome, Nat, mate. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, thanks.
Mate, thanks for being on the show. And Phil Emery, a former New South Wales Australian cricketer, wicketkeeper. He was my first captain for New South Wales, scoring 100 in his 100th first-class match and played one test in Pakistan. Away from cricket, he works in the world of insurance broking at Gow Gates. And for that reason, he's a very good golfer. Hello, Phil.
Hello, Shana. How are you?
Mate, thanks for doing this show. I'll start quickly with you, Phil. I've got I've got yin and yang on the show here today. So, Phil, you went to Shaw private school, and Nat was at a public school. But I want to ask you first. As I mentioned, you were my first captain of New South Wales. How was I as a young student?
Well, I think back in the day then, I mean, you became a fine all-rounder.
Yes.
Playing a number of games for Australia. But back then, I think you were picked in the first game against Western Australia.
Correct.
In Sydney as our opening bowler. Batting, I don't know.
9.
9 might have been, yeah.
Yes.
Anyhow, so...
Fucking behind you.
Yeah. Well, I might have got a bowl before you. In fact, that's the story, isn't it? So, yeah. So you were opening the bowling with Wayne Holdsworth, I think.
That's correct.
And I think you sent down 12 balls of absolute rubbish.
I was nervous.
How old were you, 19?
I was 18, actually.
18,
yeah.
18, okay. So you're bustling in. And I think Jeff Marsh took a little bit of a liking to you through point and wherever else it was getting bowled. And so you had a couple of overs. And then I think I had Wayne on for about 6 or 7. And I took Wayne off. I replaced you, put Wayne on. Took him off after 6 or 7. I walked up to you and went, you're on after. And you went, oh, you don't want me to bowl again, do you?
That's very, very true.
And I looked at you and I went, well, you are our opening bowler, Shane, and I'm not going to do it. And I think you got Jeff Marsh out.
Now, Nat, do you describe yourself, mate, as a Balmain Tiger or a Rooster?
I'd describe myself as a South junior originally.
Right, okay.
Born and bred in Alexandria. But I would have to say, for the simple fact that I played first grade for the Roosters, that I'm probably a chook more than... when it comes to football, more than a rabbit. But I'm born and bred rabbit, so, I'd say it's a 50-50, but if I had to say first grade wise, I'd be a rooster.
So I want to ask you, so you're regarded as one of the best pranksters. I want to ask you that what's the story behind you were playing, I think, for the New Zealand Warriors, and Ivan Cleary had a function at his house. He had a long driveway. What happened there?
When I was playing at the Warriors, probably every side that I played, I get bored and a bit hyperactive, so
It's a fast bowler.
I'd just go out and break into teammates' houses just for a bit of fun. And I used to get everyone, like, if I didn't get you, I probably didn't like you. So I used to get, I got Rico, I got so many of them. But when I went to the Warriors, Kevin Camping, who's one of the toughest blokes I've ever played with, he was there, Ivan Cleary and all the Polynesian boys and that. I used to just scare the shit out of the Polynesian boys. They just shit themselves. They're terrified, right? And I used to tell a camper used to say to me with his husky voice, "Don't fucking ever do that to me, or I'll bash you." And I was like, "Bash me?" I said, "You can't fight." I said, "You're gone." You go, "What?" I go, because his missus used to go home every 4 weeks back to Brisbane.
So he's at home on his own.
And he's scared of the dark, right? True story, he's scared of the dark. And I used to say to him, "Mate, I'm going to get you." And he'd panic. Anyway, I ended up getting him, and then Ivan and his missus used to have the best dinner parties. And we went to his house and we're having a dinner party, and Campo's there telling me I scared the shit out of him. And Ivan goes, "Mate, don't ever do any of that shit here." And I probably played with Ivan at the Roosters, and I said, no, I won't do that. Anyway, he had this beautiful house, and you have to drive down this driveway. And as we were driving down the driveway, I've just said to me, "Missus, I'll see you at home." Opened the door and stunt rolled out of the car.
Oh, no.
Crawled back up his lawn and climbed up his drain pipe to his bedroom. And I get in his bedroom, they're still doing the dinner party. And I'm thinking, how the fuck am I going to get him to come up here?
Yeah.
So I get the radio and I turn the radio on in his bedroom as loud as I could. Just starts blaring, right? And I jump in the cupboard. And I'm in the cupboard and I hear dunk, 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 dunk up the stairs. I'm thinking it's Ivan coming up. And someone comes and turns the radio off and I pull the door open and jump out. And it's Nathan Clear. He's like 4. And he just goes, "Wah!" He just screams. And he pisses his pants and runs down the stairs. Ivan comes up ready to kill someone. And that's how I ended up. I think Nathan's actually named after me because of all the pranks that I used to do at the Roosters. And, but I think I scarred poor Nathan. I don't think he's ever got over
Well,
it.
he's come pretty good.
He's come good.
I was going to say to you, Phil, I think we, and this is you too, Nat, when you played your footy, we all played in, I think, the perfect era. It was sort of, first half of our career was semi-professional. I always say I put the semi in professional. But the second half, we got paid okay. But there were a lot of pranksters in our day too. Like Glenn McGrath, he was a pain in the arse in the change room.
Oh, massive pain in the arse.
Yeah.
There was a game down in Tassie, I think, and it was a miserable. Like it was always raining down there, and we were always off for rain breaks and whatnot. And McGrath was down there with us because he never played any Shield cricket.
No,
he played 6 or 7 games.
Yeah.
No, at the start of his career. And then so he was down there. He was injured as usual, but he was getting ready for the next test or a tour or whatever. So he came with Paddy Farhart, the physio,
Yes.
to keep having treatment.
the hairiest man in the world.
Oh, yeah, the smiling Millen. But the problem with McGrath was he get bored, and then he used to just be a bloody nuisance. And so we'd come off the field, it had been raining, and we're all tired, and we can't get these blokes out. The umpires weren't doing the right thing for us. It was raining all the time, so we kept on coming on and off, and it was freezing. Come off, and McGrath's just starting to play with bits and pieces. And I remember I had a cup of coffee, and he's, for some reason, decided to, I don't know, put his finger in my ear or push me or something like that, and I sort of went to go at him, and next thing you know, he's whacked the coffee. It's gone in my face and all over me. Next thing, I'm on top of him in the change room, and well, trying to kill him. And at that point, I think we worked out, McGrath, you can't come out.
Yeah.
And so he got sent home.
Yeah. But it's funny, Nat, I was going to say to you, the players right now, you look at the rugby league players, they're potentially going to go on strike before the start of the season. They're talking about injuries. And the big issue that the players have is that they don't get paid. You have to get, if you've got something wrong with your body, you have to get it fixed in the first year you're out of footy. And they want to be looked after.
Yep.
First question to you, you're boxing, your brother Garth, you did boxing your whole time.
Yep.
How are you now? And have you had injuries and ongoing stuff post-career?
Yeah, so I think the biggest topic at the moment is head trauma.
Yeah.
And put it this way, in my footy career, I reckon, and I played well above my weight. When I was at the Roosters, I was 72 kilos.
Right.
Which is light, as.
Yeah.
Most front rowers were 120 kilos back then. I probably got knocked out. We've worked it out. I've probably got concussed 20 times in my career.
Jeez.
Which is ridiculous. And I used to, when I was at South originally, I got knocked out, and they used to do a test to see like how smart you were, right? They did this test. And so if you got knocked out, you do this test. When you got knocked out, you do the test. And if you didn't beat your score, you weren't allowed back on. I got knocked senseless. I got a better score, knocked out. And they threw me back on. And I played. And after the game, we played at Campbelltown. My old man he was always at our games. No matter where he could have played on the moon, he would have got there. And I went and sat in the grandstand and I was watching the game, and my old man comes over and he goes, "You all right?" Because he was going to drive home from Campbelltown. And I said, "Yeah, I'm sweet." So he started walking off, and as always, I looked back at the field and everything turned upside down. So what damage I'd done, because your vision reflects off the back, I'm not too sure how it happens, everything had turned upside down. So
Jeez.
I was like, "Oh, shit." So I waved him down, said to him, "I'm crook." Took me home, drove from Campbelltown to home. My hands started going numb. I got into bed. Woke up 40 minutes later, couldn't see. Got rushed to hospital. They did all scans and everything. They thought I had bleeding on the brain. It was a pretty serious situation. I was completely blind for 48 hours, and they told me brother and me mum and dad what was going on. Me and my brother are very close. He started getting emotional and smashing the casualty up and that. And I said to him, "Garfus, come here, I need you to do me a favour." And he comes over and he's like, "Yeah, anything." As a kid, I was like 18, 19. And I said, "Mate, I need you to do me a favour." He goes, "What's that?" I said, "I need you to pick me out a Labrador pup." Because I was blind, right? He's like, shut up, mum and dad are laughing. I got my sight back, but I wasn't allowed to play football ever again. Quit footy for a year and took up boxing with Newtown Police Boys, of all things, with Johnny Lewis. And and was boxing and going all right, but I was doing it on the slide. My mum and dad weren't supposed to know that I was sparring blokes. But then, I went to another specialist and told them what had happened. They said, look, if you can make a career out of rugby league, you're mad not to. So I went back to South and they said, no, you're too risky with your concussions. And they brushed me and I went to the Tigers and ended up playing first grade at the Tigers and ended up playing for 17 more seasons. But I continually got knocked out. If I didn't get knocked out twice a year, I wasn't trying.
It's interesting you say about going to bed with a numb hand. I've never happened to me. I've woken up with a few. But hey, the one thing you two have in common, both your dads played professional sport as well. And Phil, your dad was a Wallaby. So what was it like growing up with a dad who was a professional sport, well, not professional back in those days, but an elite sportsman?
Well, it's normal. Like, for me, that was normal.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a sports room. He was the sports master. Dad's a country boy. He came from Lismore and actually played in Lismore High's first 13 rugby league team when he was 13 years old with the Rayners. So Jack Rayner and his brother. So they're from up there. So Dad knew them. And Jack Rayner's like,
legend.
Legend of rugby league. Came down to Sydney and he played rugby and cricket at Shaw. So he was actually more interested in cricket, believe it or not. So he was coach of the cricket team at the school. So I grew up in a sports room with footballs, and back then they were leather footies, and he had a
big heavy balls,
and I learned how to lace a leather ball when I was 10.
Wow.
Put grips on bats and all sorts of things. So he used me to climb up and down the racks to get all the gear out. So for me, I grew up with sport, and if it was kind of normal. I mean, he was Lancaster bomber pilot originally, so he was in the World War II, and some amazing stories from what they did. He came back, played one game of grade footy, got picked for New South Wales, and then he went on a 9-month tour back to the UK.
Wow.
With Ken Carney and a whole bunch, Trevor Allen and a whole bunch of them. So I think Dad ended up playing for Whitehaven, captain-coached Whitehaven. He was one of the first rugby union guys to go and play league.
Wow.
Yeah. So he then lived up in Cumbria, played minor counties cricket.
Played against Whitehaven when I was in the UK.
Yeah. Well, you were up in Warrington, weren't you? Yeah. Well, so I played up in Barnsley in Yorkshire, and then in and then in Macclesfield, over in Cheshire. But so Dad passed away quite a while ago, and they had a minute's silence for him over in Whitehaven.
Isn't that beautiful?
He wrote a book.
Excellent.
Wrote a book on league. So to me, it was like he was contemporaries of Nick Shahady, and my mother was a Wyndon, and her cousin was Cole Wyndon, who's a legend of Randwick.
You're destined to play sport. Yeah. And Nat, your old man Barry was a
good footballer.
Wasn't he?
Good athlete, very good athlete. We grew up. Everything we did usually had a ball involved.
Yeah.
And we grew up.
Isn't that great?
Really good. We played every sport, and we could if we jigged school. If Dad come home, whatever job he was doing, he used to always come home early. So I don't know how hard he was working. But, we'd jig school, and if me and my brother would be laying on the lounge watching whatever soap he was on at the time, as soon as we heard Dad the key go in the door, we'd jump up and go and get on the bench press and that. He'd walk in and go, "What the fuck are you blokes doing home?" We go, "Oh, it's people free day or some bullshit." And you go, "Oh." You go, "All right, what are you benching?" You go, "I had a curl or whatever." But if we weren't doing weights, we were asleep on the lounge or something, he'd wake the shit out of us.
You went to Shaw, Phil. Did you ever jig school?
No, it's hard when your old man's there. And he gave you the lift there, so it's a bit tough. I spent a lot of time, I had my holidays there. Like he'd go in there and I'd be out on the oval kicking balls or swimming or doing whatever we'd do. So you had great facilities to use. But I used to hang around after school and be in the nets with all the boarders. There's about 400 boarders in the school.
Okay.
So I got to grow up with all those guys. So you end up being great mates with the guys in the country and going out into all these fabulous places. But you had plenty of guys to bat and bowl and kick balls with.
Hey Nat, I always look for a junior reporter for every one of my shows when I do my research. And my junior reporter this time is a guy called Corey Pearson. He's my best mate, Corey. He says he knows you very well. Now, Corey's told me, Nat, about you, that you are one of the best dancers in the world and used to go off at Biblos back in the days.
Yes.
And he said you had some sort of dance routine that looked like you were serving drinks in the middle of it. He said it was a great routine.
I would have been serving something. I don't know if it was drinks. I used to think I was a good dancer. My brother's a really good dancer. He actually went to the School of Performing Arts.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
he turned into a boxer.
He turned into a boxer. He had
there you go.
good footwork.
Yeah.
But I used to think I could dance, and it was probably everything else I consumed that made me think that way. But yeah, I corrupted Corey quite a few times on a night out. He was a bit of a late bloomer, Corey.
Yeah.
I'd be hard to get to,
Yeah,
wouldn't
it
he?
was hard to get to. Give him a Chinese burn, he'd cry.
I remember my first ever trip, and Phil's going to roll his eyes here, but we went to England, New South Wales. We won the double here. We went up to play Surrey. It was the best tour of all time because we batted the first day, got 300, and it rained for the next 9 days.
Oh, it was a perfect
It was a
tour.
perfect trip, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and you and
we-
I, we were in a nightclub, and we walked out, and I didn't realise I was young, and Phil was the captain, so I wanted to do the right thing. So I stayed with the captain all night. We walked out, and it was sunlight, and I've gone, shit, it's 5 a.m, and Phil goes, do you think you have that much fun in one night with that not being 5 o'clock? That was one of the great trips, wasn't it?
It was. Didn't play a lot of cricket.
No.
Walked out at 5 o'clock. I was stretching my calf muscles at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Might have been 7.
Day 2, day
It might have
3.
been 7. Hey, Phil, you played your first Test match. Ian Healy broke his finger. You got to tour Pakistan. They've just gone back to Pakistan now, so that's how long they've been out of action because of the attack. I think it was on the Sri Lankan cricket team.
Yeah, the one Trevor Barlas was on the
coach,
bus. Yeah.
Australia's about to go to India, which is, I think, it's a test playing against India in India. How do you think it will go?
Well, we'll see how good we are.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I mean, and I think the two tours coming up, the Indian tour and then the Ashes follow, are really going to show us, you know, what we are. I don't think we got to see what we were over the summer. God, I think we'll go all right, but I'm not.
Where
I'm not
are the
predicting.
gaps, do you think? Well, Khawaja can't even get in at the moment.
He's got a problem getting in.
Well,
It's right with
because
visas.
he's Australian, of course, but he's
Yeah.
born in Pakistan, and
Correct.
the only Pakistani who's been allowed into India in the last 45 years was Wazim Akram. It's a fact, because they love him so much at cricket. No other Pakistani has been allowed into India. I think they'll approve. He had the same sort of issues back in 2012, but there's some issues there. But will he go well against spin? You got Travis Head, who I think is going to struggle a bit. There's a few gaps.
Yeah, well, we're not really sure how they're going to go, but both those guys have been in great form and have
Yep.
actually changed how they've been playing. You know, Khawaja is a good player.
He
of
is a good
spin,
player.
and he's a very good player of spin. For some reason, years ago they wouldn't take him over there, but he's in form. And I mean, you want players who are in form. Specialists for certain areas, yes, but you know, Head's deserved his spot and the way he's played. Now maybe it's the making of him. He seems to be playing straighter.
Yep.
He's not looking to play square all the time and getting caught out in gully. And he's changed how we've played over the last couple of years, really. But who we've played against has not been. You know, the Ashes tour out here last, they weren't flash.
And you got Steve Smith looking unbelievable. You got Labuschagne, who's a great player. So our batting's pretty solid.
Reasonably solid. And look, our best bowlers are quicks.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, apart from Lyon. We're going to take a bunch of guys over there to stop gap that spin bowling spot.
Yep.
But really,
Green's good.
yeah, no, I grant that. So you've got to pick your best bowlers who are going to take wickets. Now, you may not be playing another spinner.
I don't think we should.
No, because I think from what we learnt when we played it in Sydney and the thing used to turn sideways and whatnot, all these states would bring over spinners and just play them.
We'd smash them.
Yeah, correct. Because if you don't bowl well on it, doesn't matter what you bowl.
That's right.
You know, so and Indians are going to be invariably the best players to spin. So if they're not specialists and they're not proven wicket takers, you know.
Hey, Nat, let's talk footy because I was getting quite excited this morning. I thought I'd start to smell the wet grass. You know, in summer, with cricket season around, you smell the cut grass.
Yeah.
But I started to smell the wet grass and a bit of deep heat. Footy season's starting. Who are you tipping this year as in the grand final? Which two teams? Penrith has to be one of them, surely.
Well, we're actually starting a podcast with a couple of mates, Aaron Macy and Glenn Schofield, called PTFU, which is Bet the Fuck Up.
Yeah.
And the boys, we've got a bunch of knockabouts that are on the panel or on the crew that they're experts in their own field, and Mace is a horse expert, and obviously Glenn's one of the greatest jockeys there is.
Yes, there is.
I'm actually heading up the NRL side of things, so all things NRL I'll be talking about. And I think, not just because I am a Rooster, I think that the Roosters will be really hard to beat. I think that luck's got a lot to do with everything. I think they've had a lot of bad luck, injuries being the main issue with them. If they can stay injury-free, the fire in their belly's got to be pretty good. And we know how good Robbo is, so I think that that the Roosters are a massive chance this year.
Yeah.
Obviously Penrith. I wouldn't be surprised.
You got the grub from Melbourne too.
Yeah. I like the cheese.
Yeah.
The cheese.
I like the cheese. I like the cheese. He's a bit of a character.
Yep.
Saw him put bricks in Bellamy's bag a couple of years ago. You see that one? I was pretty impressed with that. I thought he'd get in my gang, that blow. But yeah, I think the Roosters will be really hard to beat, and I'd like to see him do it. I like South, of course. South born and bred, so I like South. But I also think that Cronulla are going to be really good too. They've had a year under Fitzy. Fitzy's one of the best up and coming coaches. A great bloke, and I'd like to see him do really well with them.
Yeah. Now, Phil, I know you're involved post retirement, involved with New South Wales past players called the Baggy Blues. You've done a lot of stuff there, and it's really, really important that once you sort of bowl or hit your last ball, the lights get turned off and you sort of go off into oblivion. So it's really, really important to get back together as mates and to catch up, and you've done a lot of stuff with that with the Baggy Blues. Maybe tell us about that, because it's really important that I think for cricketers, at least in the last year or so, we've lost Warney and Andrew Simons and Rod Marsh and some of the greats of the game. And we've seen guys like Slater and McGill sort of go down paths that they probably wouldn't want to go down. They're in a bit of trouble. Talk me about the Baggy Blues.
So we started about 11 years ago, I think. I mean, there was a whole, from when you finish your career, and as you just said, the caravan continues on and you just jump off it.
Yeah.
And I know my last game, I think you captained the next one. And I've got 6 months. I went from actually working and playing to retiring and actually getting retrenched from job. I had 6 months off. I used to just look up the scores and see what you guys were doing, but you guys were never around. So from living in each other's pockets to then being on your own, it's you go through this grieving period, even though you might retire. You either get injured or you get dropped or you retire if you're lucky, if you make your own call. And I was lucky enough to do that, but you still go through a grieving process because it's just not the norm. 9 months spending time with people and they go on and what have you. And a lot of what you miss is actually gone years before. But what we did was we got together and basically Gav Robertson called a bunch of us together and we developed an idea of sorting our own sort of alumni group up, which we've done. So we're the past players, past, current, men, women, and umpires, believe it or not. I don't know if they snuck in there, but they're part of the game as well. And so they're in there, which is great, actually, because we used to have them in the room and have a beer with them afterwards. So we basically started as just getting back together and building a connection with the current guys. We've moved that on to now going out into country areas and playing games and coaching and promoting the game, but also doing some stuff for the area in mental health.
That's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, so we've teamed up with RAMP, which is the Rural Adversity Mental Health Program, and so we go away for a 3-day trip. We take 6 players, they play the game, put them on 2 teams, 3 on one side, 3 on another, with the locals. They play a game together. They get to, touch, feel those guys, if you know what I mean. So in terms of, so that rather than just sort of telling them what to do.
How good's that?
Tell them what to do. But, playing with the guys, so they get to know what they're like on the field together. And then we'll do a dinner and we'll do a presentation on mental health, and Gav Robertson gets up and speaks and things like that. So we've done about 25 of them.
Brilliant, mate. Hey, and Nat, you've put together your own WhatsApp group there for a while. What was that about?
Oh, our WhatsApp group wasn't my WhatsApp group. I was lucky enough to get into a horse with Tony Gollan, who's Brisbane, Queensland's leading trainer. I got a good mate called Brian Simpson who has it's called Black Soils. He's a horse breeder and among other things. And my brother and I were raising some money for motor neuron. We lost our uncle to motor neuron, and we were doing a punch-a-thon. We punched a thing that I invented called the Hitbox for 16 hours straight, and people would donate money to sponsor us, and we raised $27,000 for motor neuron. And I rang SEMO prior to it, and I said, "Look, mate, if you got any shares in a horse that you can't get rid of, we'll use it and we'll get people to sponsor us and we'll give them the share." And he goes, "Oh, mate, I got this horse. It's no good. It's got a bad tendon and that." And I said, "Oh," he said, "but we'll throw it in." I said, "Yeah, we'll throw it in anyway." So we threw it in, and I got all my mates. I said, "Oh, there's this horse that we can jump into." So me, my brother, and 10 other mates, 10 other mates jumped into it. Anyway, the horse was called Miami Flies, right? And ended up winning 400,000. So it was a good thing to jump into. But in this group of blokes that are from Queensland, Simo's put us in this group, and I'm thinking it's just all the blokes involved in the horse. And so they're all, Simo's telling them how mad a night they're going to have partying with me and this and that, and they're all saying, oh, I do this and I do that. I'm like, all right, these blokes think they're good. So I say, okay, boys, well, this is what you can, I can't wait to see us, but this is what you can. So I've got about 25 dick tricks. So, right? And I invented dick tricks. Remember back in the 90s, these blokes were going around the pubs doing the puppetry of the penis? And they plagiarised some of my stuff, right? Yeah. And I thought, all right, we'll show these blokes what they're in for.
Oh, God.
So I do one of my signature ones, the Tiger in the Sunset, right there.
I've never seen that one.
I'll show you later. Where I get me mort and I stick it down between my legs and I stretch it out that way and I just walk off, right?
Tiger in the Sunset.
So I get me mates to film me doing the Tiger in the Sunset and I send it to this group thinking I'm going to get laughs and that, and then I get, what the fuck is wrong with you? How weird are these blokes from New South Wales? This isn't on, da-da-da-da-da. All these blokes blowing up. And I wrote, what the fuck's wrong with you blokes? The first sign of a bit of big game, you shit yourselves, right? And I just think enough. Then the chat just goes dead. We catch the plane up the next day. I get off the plane, they go, what's wrong with you? I go, what? They go, all our wives and kids.
Oh, no.
Everyone on this chat. And I was like, I didn't know that, boys. I thought it was just the blokes involved in the horse.
Your phone was probably ringing hot afterwards. But it reminds us of a guy we played with, Wayne Holsworth. He had similar moves. And I remember we played the Fijian cricket team in a game at the SCG. And they came in to our change room at the end of the game, and as a token of their appreciation, they sang this beautiful Fijian song they all harmonised. And Bob Radford, who was our then CEO, who was I won't say a part-time alcoholic, but he used to drink a bit, he said, that's fantastic, Cracker. How can we respond to that? Show him your dick tricks. And he did, and it didn't go down very well. Yeah, the pulsating heart wasn't great, was it?
No. I had wiped that from the memory, but thanks for bringing that up. He actually won they won a lottery on his performances, didn't they?
They did too. Yeah. They win 110 grand.
Oh, something like that. They won first, second, and third prize or something in the lottery.
One of my great memories, Phil, was 93, 94, we win the Sheffield Shield. Day 5, we finished quite early, around about 11:30 a.m. in the morning. So it's we got the whole day to celebrate in the change room. We had a wonderful man who passed away a few years ago called Merv Serres, who was used to strap at the Manly Football Club, but you do the cricket, New South Wales, during the summer.
Played footy against my man.
Did he really?
Yeah,
I didn't realise that. Yeah. Anyway,
Merv
Merv was our room attendant. Anyway, we drank in the change room all day to the point where we finally wanted to go into the Woolloomooloo Bay Hotel about 8 o'clock that night. And old Merv had an old yellow, he would have been 70 years of age at this stage, an old yellow sort of Corolla.
Yeah.
And we asked him to give us a lift down because we couldn't drive. And Merv said, I'm going home. I'll drop you boys off. And as we pulled into Woolloomooloo, the booze bus was there with the witches' hats. And we pulled in, and Merv goes, I'm just dropping the boys off. We've got Sheffield Shield winners. We've got Phil Emery and Shane Lee and Michael Bevan. I think Michael Slater might have been in the car, whoever it was. And he goes, okay, get out, boys. And he could smell the alcohol. And he says to Merv, are you fit to drive? He said, yeah. He goes, how far are you going? He goes, I'm not far. And he goes, well, be careful. What's not far? He goes, North Corkhill. As he drove off, he mowed down about 15 witches.
Took them all out. Yeah.
But good times, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, mate. He's a fabulous bloke, Merv.
Hey, I ask everyone the same question that comes on Lunch with Lee. And I'll ask you first, Nat. If a young boy or girl wants to go into the world of rugby league, what advice would you give them?
Wow.
I can't wait to hear this one.
The world of rugby league.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that because I've got 2 older boys and 2 younger boys. I've got a 27, 24, 6 and 16 months.
Yep.
So my 6-year-old's playing soccer and that at the moment, and I'm sort of leaning to him playing soccer.
Okay.
And I love rugby league.
Yeah.
But what from the way it's taken its toll on me with I've got memory issues and stuff that's going on at the moment. I probably it sounds bad. I probably wouldn't steer a young kid into rugby league at the moment because
if they want to play professional sport, what advice
I want to
would
play
you
professional sport. Look, you got to do the little things. You got to sacrifice things. You got to do the extras. I think every professional sport, it's all about the extras. You know what I mean? What you do outside of the normal training times is what makes the difference. You know, we're all there's a bee's dick's difference in ability once you get to the top level.
Yep.
You know, the difference is what you're willing to sacrifice, the extras you do. You know, what you do when the bloke that's playing your position, what he won't do. You know.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just doing the extras and making the sacrifice that that is the difference between
Yep.
being good and being great. You
And
know?
Phil, a young boy or girl wants to go and become a professional sportsman. What advice would you give them?
Well, I wouldn't go into the I would say if they want to be a sportsman, I'd take the professional bit out of it.
Okay.
Because to me, right at the start, you play sport because you love it.
Yeah, good. Yep.
You know, and if you don't, well, you're not going to make it anyhow.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So I think you've got to love what you do.
Yep.
I think all the trappings and bits come later, but it's hard work, and it's little. As they said, it's little things. It's skills carry it. You know, so for us, it was always around the little bits and pieces that you're going to be able to carry you into day 5. You know, in the last hour. You know, to make a catch or to do something like that, or to score the runs, or to be able to stump up and bowl. So you've got to love that. If you don't love that competition and you don't love that work ethic, then you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I got 2 boys play rugby. One's playing first grade in Sydney, and the other one's over in England, and mate, they work harder than I ever did.
Yeah.
And
That would be hard.
You were my training partner. You're like a big bloody anchor.
Right.
You're like an anchor around my ankle. No, but to me that's it. You got to love what you do. There's a great saying from there's a bloke that coached at Norths Rugby. A bloke called Simon Cron. He's now got the Western Force. You play because you love it. You turn up to play, and you're second to nobody. That's the word he used. And then, but they're the 3 things. They're his rules. And
just finally, Nat, is there one moment or time in your career that sticks out as where you went to yourself? That's a real highlight for me.
I think the highlight for me was when I went to England.
Yep.
Here, I probably didn't do myself justice in the end because for me it was might have been an ego thing at the time because I was a young kid and I was always mostly coming off the bench when I was at the Roosters.
Okay.
And when you're a kid growing up, if you're on the bench, you're on the bench. So that was hard for me. And I think I had a lot of outside influences when I was playing in Australia. But when I went to England, I was on my own. Right? It was to survive, look after my family and stuff like that. I was struggling to get a club.
Is that where you became a professional footballer, do you think?
I think that's when I became a man,
Right, okay.
I can remember at that point in time, I was like, right, I'm a man. So
Well done.
that would be that point of time in my life.
I'm interested to hear your comment on that. What was that moment? I've never asked you this question. We've known each other for years. Is there a moment that sticks out for you that you're super proud of? I'm sure there's many, but
yeah, there's a couple. I mean, the day I got picked for New South Wales changed my life.
yeah,
And I mean, it was a goal of mine. It was something I really, really wanted to do, and I don't really know whether you're going to get that opportunity, but that turned into 10 years.
yeah,
And then got a chance to play for Australia, which is another thing. I think the thing about that was I was proud that I was actually playing consistently enough and well enough to be the bloke that was the next one. I mean, Hills missed 1 game out of 100 and something, and I got it. And if I wasn't playing well enough or doing the right thing at that time, I would have been Darren Berry or would have been someone else. And that...
Quick shout to Darren Berry.
Should have seen his face when I'd asked Jimmy Marr how many times he'd kept for Australia. It was 16. He almost died. And then I think the things that I was really proud of that 93, 94 side.
Yep.
When we were just the kids and we got flogged in Perth in 2 days, heads on tombstones in papers, and then we win 7 outright games and won more outright games than anyone had ever won, and win the Shield with a bunch of kids. But also grade cricket. Won two premierships with my club side, which is, God, people go through forever not getting that chance.
Yep.
And that's really hard.
Yeah.
Like 20 sides, and there's usually some dominant sides in the competition, but to do that, I was nervous.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on Lunch with Lee. It's been fun. We're here at the Mosman Rowers down in the beautiful Mosman Bay. We better go downstairs now and have a fantastic lunch. We've got a fantastic restaurant here. We'll have an O'Brien beer. Phil's going to apologise to me finally for that one catch he dropped off me many years ago down in Tasmania.
And you hit me in the head just up the road here, you dickhead. Rawson Oval. Remember that?
But thanks for coming on Lunch with Lee, guys. And we'll be back soon. Next time. Thanks guys.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
That's it for Lunch with Lee this week. A big thank you goes out to our guests, Nathan Wood and Phil Emery. Thanks to the Mosman Rowers for having us today. And thank you to our sponsors, Barclay Pierce Capital, Elite Bet and O'Brien Beer. Make sure you hit follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. And do us a favour, hit 5 stars. If you're passionate, leave a review. And Come check us out on Instagram at I'm at Lunch with Lee. Our official Lunch with Lee photography was done by Felicity Kelly. You can find her on Instagram at Felicity Kelly Portraits. And also a big thank you as always to Dan McHugh, our great producer. We'll be back next time to talk to more legends about sport, music and business on another episode of Lunch with Lee. We'll see you then.